Welcome to Down to Earth Astrology. I am Miss Jenny, and I am an astrologer, and today, Astrology investigates. So, if you're here in the US, I'm sure you've been watching the news with all of the things that are going on. Oh my God. And now Andrew Cuomo, our beloved Andrew Cuomo, who handled the pandemic crisis in New York so magnificently. He has emergency medical services training. He used to be a paramedic, I believe, and it showed. It absolutely showed. Emergency medical management, or EMS. His EMS background really shined through during the pandemic. But like all politicians, he got caught with his hands in the cookie jar, or attempting to put his hands in the cookie jar. So I couldn't resist pulling up his chart, only because, in case it's not obvious to you, and it might not be, unless you are living in the Bible Belt, which apparently seems to be a hotbed of this kind of activity. Didn't know that, did you? Andrew Cuomo, I would bet you good money he's a swinger. And he's got all the personality traits and hallmarks of being one of the swingers. I'm sure he and his wife have quite the stories to tell. And to be perfectly honest, the nipple ring was a real strong suggestion that he's either a swinger or into BDSM, but that's a whole other conversation. And with his Mars in Scorpio, this is definitely a distinct possibility. So, let's get back to the topic. So, Andrew Cuomo has been accused of sexual harassment of a couple of three, I believe we're up to three now, maybe four, female subordinates. And, it's not harassment like, oh, ha ha ha, nice blouse. Like, it didn't, no, this is like out and out creepy stuff. Like, apparently he asked a 26-year-old intern, so have you ever had sex with an older man? Which, of course, the answer should be yes, but I've never had sex with a zombie, so no thank you. Because, Jesus, the guy's like, what, 100? No. He's only in his 60s. He looks like he's 100, but he's only in his 60s. And apparently some other typical creepy predatory remarks. Now, I'm not defending any of this, because all of them, every single one of them, needs to be hauled out and tried in the court of public opinion for this nonsense. And it's got to stop. We have got to stop tolerating and excusing men for behaving like this, especially around young women who are just learning how to navigate the adult world. And they do it on purpose for specifically that reason, because these girls are just learning how to navigate the adult world, so they don't have all their defenses yet. But the reason I'm not as fiery about him as I could be is because, by way of politicians, he's the least greasy of them. These guys, like, if we think this is bad, you should see what's going on that we're not hearing about. And I'll tell you a personal story from my own experience in a very small area when I was a teenager. I think I was 17 at the time, with a girlfriend down at the beach. And we had run into a local politician. And at 17 and 16, literally politics means nothing. And the man knew we were underage, and he was literally trying to get us to go have a happy time with him and get undressed and put his hands all over us. It was a really uncomfortable, creepy experience, and we couldn't get away from him fast enough. And this is a local small town politician, so who should know better? Because small towns and small cities, everybody knows everybody. And don't forget, there's also that politician, Ray Moore from Alabama, who is such a hebephile, which means that he chases adolescent girls exclusively, or adolescent boys. He is so known for decades in his community down in Alabama about chasing adolescents, like literally chasing adolescents, that everybody in the community knows to keep your kids away from him, like literally. And he was banned from a mall. So the thing about it is, with Andrew Cuomo may have an interesting sex life compared to most people, and he may have overstepped some boundaries in his rush and enthusiasm to get to these cute young things, and did it completely inappropriately. That's the creepiest, even if he weren't somebody's boss, it would still be creepy. But he is the tip of the iceberg. I want you guys to remember this. He is the tip of the iceberg in terms of the inappropriate, creepy behavior that goes on with these politicians, right? And I know we're not supposed to paint everybody with the same brush, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And these guys have been living in a world where they get a free pass on pretty much everything. So I'm sure, like the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing and all of this, I'm sure it gets much darker, deeper, and uglier from here with everybody else. So I'm not going to be too hard on him. He was just stupid and creepy, for God's sakes. At the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, that was creepy. Okay, so I looked at the chart. I said, that's interesting. What is going on with his chart that suddenly this is kicking up? I mean, other than obviously somebody's got a major bone to pick with him, right? Because this was deliberate. Like, this didn't just suddenly appear out of the nowhere because somebody, So we know people were prompted to reveal these things. It's not that they didn't happen. It's just that the timing of them is pretty convenient. Now, with that said, he is a full moon. He's a Sagittarius. He's Sun-Saturn conjunction of Sagittarius with the moon in Gemini. Now, the full moon in and of itself makes the person very highly visible, very magnetic. Like, you can't miss them. You cannot miss them. If you don't see them, you will hear them. In his particular case, the important thing about this, right, and also to full moon lifetimes, if you're born under full moon, in this lifetime, there are a lot of things that are going to come to crisis peaks or culminations. There are a lot of karmic relationships that are playing out in this lifetime. So you're having a lot of situations you're dealing with in this lifetime, kind of like your midterm exam, right? Or your final exam, like this is the test. With him, this is made doubly worse because he carries a Sun-Saturn conjunction in Sagittarius. The Sun-Saturn conjunction by itself, with a full moon configuration, absolutely indicates that in this lifetime, this person must act with tremendous integrity, like sterling levels of integrity, like golden rule polished until it's gleaming like the sun integrity. Or there will be heavy, heavy penalties for this. Now, given how well he handled the pandemic situation in New York with all his EMS training and the fact that he has an EMS background, clearly there are parts of his nature that really are desirous of serving and protecting, right? And doing more for the common good, which has been helpful. But it doesn't, with the Sun-Saturn conjunction as part of a full moon, Sun-Saturn by itself is problematic anyway, but with the full moon configuration, you don't get a pass on anything. Like literally every aspect of your life has to be squeaky clean and above board and full of integrity if you're going to get through this lifetime without major spankings, as it were, right? Or penalties for bad behavior, which is apparently what he's dealing with right now. So now the question is, well, what on earth could have possibly triggered this? Well, boys and girls, if you look at his chart, if you want to set it up, you can set it up. He was born on December 6th, 1957. I believe he's 63 right now. In Queens, New York, I don't have a time of birth for him. We're just operating off the planets. If you look by transit, now remember we talked about Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter, all these Aquarius planets being truth bringers, right? Because Aquarius is all about brutal, embarrassing, uncomfortable honesty. They're not real good with tact or timing in some cases. So all these Aquarius planets on their own are already forcing a lot of issues and bringing things to light. Like it's all about things being out in the open and being honest, right? So, and this is and integrity and ethics, and these are the things that we're hearing about over and over and over and over again since these planets entered Aquarius, and we're going to keep hearing about it until we get through this. Now, those Aquarius planets we're talking about right now, guess what? They are, where was I going with this? Sorry. They're squaring his Mars. He carries Mars at 1846 Scorpio. Now, normally this would be, it's an interesting degree. There's a fixed star that's pretty interesting, but that's for another conversation. But it's still Mars and Scorpio, oversexed, super sex, crazy, horny, walking around with goat horns, Scorpio, Mars and Scorpio. All these Aquarius planets are squaring that Mars and Scorpio. So any peccadillos or cough, inappropriate behaviors and or sexual secrets will come up or be forced out in the open at this time. Now, here's the thing. If he is in fact a swinger or some kind of like kinky thing with his wife, that won't count. And we're never going to hear about it. And the reason we're not going to hear about it is because it's not really a secret. His wife knows about it. You know, they're open with each other about it. They're probably open with their communities about it. It's not, that's part of their private life, not a secret life. Hating on your young interns inappropriately and saying creepy things like, oh, so, have you ever had sex with an older man? Because, I draw the line at women until they're 20, I think he said 26. Yeah, I won't sleep with anybody under 26. Like, we care, old man. That is considered secret because that's not something clearly you would want anybody to know about. And now I know why. Ooh. Okay. Now, also, interestingly enough, Pluto has just squared his Jupiter. So, my friends, without houses, it gets a little tricky trying to figure out how this is all playing out for him because we don't know what area of life this is really laser focusing in on. But transiting Pluto has been squaring his Jupiter for a while. So his relationships have been under strain for quite some time. Huge pressure to do the right thing. And also there may actually be the possibility that his wife has discussed divorce in his last few years. But we don't know about that either because these are conversations we're not privy to. In any event, while this is going on with all these new accusations, the other thing's happening. Remember we talked about the semi-sextox with this Aquarius stellium and this Pisces stellium like right next to each other, right? So they see each other, but they don't know what to do with each other, right? So you have like two people doing their own things side by side, not really interacting with each other and kind of getting in each other's way, right? Semi-sextiles, gotta love them. That Pisces stellium is setting up a T-square to his full moon. So all this Aquarius squaring his Mars, forcing all these little peccadillos and inappropriate, indiscreet behaviors, all being forced out in the open, while this Pisces stellium is setting up the T-square in his chart, really bringing the hammer down and forcing the door open. So he is, this is what we call, boys and girls, this is what we call having a come to Jesus moment. So he's really having a come to Jesus moment, and I'm sure he's sweating. I am sure he's sweating this. He's, as of this evening, he has said that he will not resign, not retire, resign. He said that he will not resign. But we'll see. We'll see. And the reason I say that is Mars right now is at 29 Taurus, right? In the next day or so, it's going to switch over. I think it's tomorrow. It'll switch over to 0 Gemini. Once Mars goes into 0 Gemini, remember, it's hitting all these fixed stars in the Pleiades and Hyades constellation, right? And some of these fixed stars are not fun by any stretch of the imagination. They are mischievous, troublemaking, problematic, bumps in the road, lots and lots of speed bumps and potholes in the cosmic road. And Mars will be crossing those fixed stars. And as it's doing that, it's also crossing that full moon in his chart involving that Saturn, which is all about integrity and penalties if you don't toe the line, absolutely with conviction on every aspect of your life. There's huge, heavy penalties that have to be paid for this. This is the cross you bear in this lifetime with that particular aspect. While this is happening, all those Pisces planets will be making the T-square to that full moon in his chart that Mars is now crossing. So he's got some interesting days ahead of him. Boy, talk about being in the hot seat. And I would look for, because again, we don't have a time of birth, so we don't really know what time he was born. So the moon is around 7-ish Gemini. We do know for a fact that the sun and Saturn are at 14 and 16 Sag. So we're looking for, so the sun is at 13 right now. So tomorrow we'll have a sun-sun square across these charts by transit and its natal. Venus will move down probably in about 5 or 6 days. And that will set up the T-square with these planets as well. And about that time, Mars will be moving closer to that opposition. So I would expect even more gossip and dirt coming up about his interesting personal life. And I'm sorry, I don't normally do celebrity gossip, but it's just been like this whole, I'm so tired. It's been a really tiring 4 years and it just doesn't stop. And honestly, again, I like Andrew. I think it was a brilliant job that he did handling the pandemic in New York. I've got mad respect for him and his EMS background, which saved New York's ass, excuse my language. I'm all about it. And listen, if they have an interesting, unorthodox, unconventional relationship at home, he and his wife, if that's what works, honey, if that's what works, you do you. If you like it, I love it. And again, compared to the greasy behavior other politicians are guilty of, including things that I've experienced as a teenager myself with local small town politicians, Andrew's a freaking choir boy by comparison, you know. But in this particular case, it is pretty, it's well, you know, it's entertaining. So we should hear a little bit more, I think, about his personal life in the next few days. And it's definitely going to ramp up to fever pitch. As soon as these planets get down closer to that Sun-Saturn degrees, 14 and 16, again, the Sun hits 14 tomorrow, and Venus will come down and hit 14 or 16 shortly as well. And that'll really kick it off. We should always be hearing more about that. So, almost forgot. Also, too, as Mars moves into Gemini, so tomorrow it's at 0, 1, 2, so 3 days, right? 3 days. Mars will simultaneously set up a square to his Pluto. Now, again, Pluto's a transpersonal planet. We don't know where it is in his chart because we don't have time of birth. But Mars squaring Pluto with everything else going on in his chart right now at the same time, ooh, these are not happy days. These are not happy days. So I expect full-scale soap opera drama coming out of this before the next 2 weeks are over. Let's watch. And hey, don't forget, help keep this information free and show love and support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Or if you have some information or comments you'd like to make, put them down in the comment below. Bye.